and Matt Duck. What's up, man?
Nothing much. Just enjoying this last stress-free day until playoff baseball starts tomorrow night.
Until they give you until the heartaches start up all over again.
No heartaches, but the appropriate nerves that go with it.
It's funny, Matt, because we're talking about baseball tomorrow night, right? And I really don't get nervous till like the fifth or sixth inning. I like to see how the game goes first, how Wheeler's pitching, how the offense is looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although it's tough with the Phillies' approach. A lot of times, they're so much more dangerous the second, third time through the lineup, which I know a lot of lineups are, but not every lineup has our pop and our experience. Unless you're named the Atlanta Braves. But that being said, I'm less nervous knowing the fact that it's here, it's in prime time, and Zach Wheeler's on the mound.
And this is Luzardo's first playoff start, if I'm correct, ain't it?
It is, and he's considerably better at home than he is on the road. So, that's going to work in our advantage. And, I just hope that they have a similar approach to, the playoff series against St. Louis. Well, at least in that second game, or the ninth inning of the first game and the second game. And then, exactly what they did against Strider and those folks in Atlanta and San Diego, where, they looked for their pitch. They worked pitchers a lot more. They have a tendency to go first pitch swinging, which I get it. If you know a fastball's coming, you pick that up, and you're able to tee off on it and barrel it up, fine. But, a lot of times when you have, especially against lefties with this lineup, you got to work them a bit. If they're placing their fastball and they have good changeup off the fastball or good slider off the fastball, and those sinkers a lot of times give this lineup a little bit of issue. That's why you got to work them. Hopefully their stuff flattens out if they get tired up. And, be a lot less nervous for me as the game goes on. But, I'm not particularly worried with Zach Wheeler. He's prime time. He's clutch. I'll reserve those nerves for depending on who comes in the bullpen or game 2 with Nola.
Wait, hang on, Matt. Let's get into it. Aaron Nola.
Yep. Already jumping ahead to game 2, huh?
No. But for you, it's just I know you're just like Perry. You both hate him so much.
I wish no ill will against him. I don't have any bad feelings towards him as a person. I would love to see him succeed. It means, when he's on the mound, he's the captain of the ship. You want the captain to, get to port successfully. So I don't want to. I'm not rooting against him, but he's given us prime example, in clutch situations down the stretch in September and in the World Series and the NLCS when he gets in a jam, especially out of the stretch. When it comes time to the 4th, 5th inning, he typically implodes and has his meltdown. The benefit of being in the playoffs is you're more inclined to have a short leash, which I think Rob Thompson, he better be very proactive there. The first sign in the middle innings, second time through the lineup with Nola, you got to be cautious. You got to be careful. If that means going to Sanchez for a couple innings, fine. This is a best of 3. It's pretty much starting at a game 6 for the most part. There's no screwing around. There's no fooling around. I'm not saying overmanage, which he tends to do, but you got to know the signs. You got to know your players. It's one thing to trust them. I get it, but hey, listen, if you could remove Zach Wheeler from Game 6 of the World Series with the lead. And what? He didn't even get through 6 innings. He was still one out in the 6th. Then you know what? You could take Aaron Nola out at any time. He doesn't deserve that trust, in my opinion. So, hey, do I hope he goes 6 2/3, 7 innings, less than 2 runs? Absolutely.
But the one
but
thing that can...
It's hard to have confidence in the guy when he's shown you a lot of what he hasn't done in these prime situations.
Now, who do you think is going to be the closer on this run? I'm leaning towards Alvarado.
Yeah. Alvarado, I think, is the only one you could trust.
Do you think he has Do you think he has the belly for it?
When he's on, he looks like he does. However, in the past, in previous save situations where he hasn't been effective, it's usually not getting that first hitter out. I mean, the number one recipe for a blown save is either walking the leadoff hitter or giving up a leadoff double, something of that variety, or the occasional error. I'm talking to you, Trey Turner. So, I mean, if he can avoid that, I mean, and he gets that fastball place and he gets that slider going, I mean, no one's going to touch him. But, in the case of a guy like Gregory Soto, it doesn't matter if you throw 100 or 101. If your fastball, your four-seamer flattens out and you can't place it, well, it doesn't really matter. But I think, long story short, Alvarado is probably the only guy with the gumption that you can really trust right now. It should be Kimbrel, but, this isn't...
I don't trust Kimbrel to save my life.
No, this isn't 2015, 16, even 18, Kimbrel. Although in 18, he really wasn't closing out any games against the Dodgers. He kind of unraveled there. But, he's throwing 94, 95. He's not placing his fastball on the outside.
In the beginning of the year, he was throwing 98, wasn't he? 97. He lost a lot of He lost a lot of juice on that fastball.
Yeah, and if you're placing the fastball well at 97, 98, it makes that knuckle curve so much more devastating. But, when you can't control a flat 94-mile-an-hour fastball, that knuckle curve is a lot easier to lay off. And that's when he controls that. And, he could just see the look on his face. He doesn't have it in those situations anymore. It's one thing to close out a game in May against, the Rockies or June against the Pirates. It's a whole nother thing to be in front of 44,000 fans, even if it's your own fans. It makes it a lot tougher to execute those pitches. So Alvarado's been there in these situations. I would rather go to him, but again, you can't worry about burning out your bullpen at this point. A lot of them are well rested. It's mostly a deep bullpen. I mean, in terms of arms, effectiveness, that is a question mark. But you got to be judicious with your bullpen. You just can't afford to have 3-4 run innings at this point, or blown saves. Especially, God willing, we get past this round and get into the road. And road games, you just can't allow that. So, but my concern, honestly, is through the middle innings, because, in the playoffs, you're going to have a starter come out after 4 or 5 innings, and not necessarily because, it's a 7-0 game. It's just, especially in these situations, a best of 3 or a best of 5, you don't want your pitcher, especially if you see him fading like you will see with Nola from time to time. With, I hope we don't get there, but Taijuan Walker, there's a quicker trigger for a manager to pull starters in the playoffs. So I think middle relievers are going to play a big role. I think they do in almost every playoff run and every long playoff run. It's very seldom starters are going to go 7, 8 innings throughout the playoffs. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
This is it. This is it, buddy. This is what we worked for. Everything to get here, to get back to the World Series. That means the Sotos, the Alvarados, the Kimbrels, the people you don't trust are probably going to be used. Like, do you trust Lorenzen? I mean, I trust Lorenzen to maybe give you an inning or two out of the pen, but I'm not crazy on him. I trust Christopher Sanchez, but, you know, if Lorenzen's ball's flat, he's getting hit, and his changeup, he has to control that changeup.
Yeah, it's good. Listen, his fastball, I mean, with any starter, it's fastball placement. You place your fastball well, it's, you're going to survive in this league, and you're going to survive in a game. Obviously, you're going to need that good secondary pitch off of it. His changeup is nice. His changeup is really nice when he gets it going. If I were him, I'd eliminate that curveball because, I mean, it just...
Remember that curveball against the... Remember that curve against the Atlanta Braves?
I sure do. He hangs it a little bit too much. So he places that fastball and he has that changeup going. I mean, he could be one of the unsung heroes coming out of the middle bullpen. Sir Anthony, again, you don't know. I mean, last year he was terrible. After being dominant for the first 3 quarters of the season, he was terrible in September. And then he was just lights out, unhittable until Game 5 of the NLCS in rain-soaked conditions. So I guess you can't blame him too much there. But we're going to need a similar performance from him. I mean, these guys are just going to have to step up. And there's a level of trust, obviously, you need with your athletes and your players, especially out of the bullpen, but you got to have a short leash with them. I mean, you know them. You've managed Soto now for 162 games. You've managed Kimbrel. You've managed all these guys. You got to know, which Rob Thompson doesn't have the best feel for the game, as we all know, or should all know. You got to know that, listen, you can't afford to have a meltdown or a long meltdown. So as soon as that energy starts coming where it's going south, gotta be ready to pull the plug and next man up. All
right, Matt Duck. Going into this series against the Miami Marlins on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your how nervous are you? You nervous? You confident? How confident? You over 10? What is it?
I think I have a nervous excitement. It's not nervous dread. I don't know that there's any team I would really dread if I'm the Phillies. The Phillies can lose to anybody, and they can beat up anybody. That we know. I'd probably be a little bit more thrown if they had to play a team like the Brewers with 2 aces and a deep 3-man rotation. That's not the case here. Alcantara's out. Not that Alcantara has ever fared well against us in the last, 2.5 seasons, minus 1 or 2 starts, one coming this year in Miami. Plus, I don't know that, he would respond well in this atmosphere. And hopefully they're smarter, more focused approach.
Look.
But, yeah, Jesus Luzardo and
who's pitching?
Going game 2 for them? It's
I think it's Garrett, ain't it?
Garrett, yeah. Yeah, it's.
I think it's 2 lefties. Is it Garrett?
It's I just had the name on the top of my tongue.
It's another lefty, ain't it?
Boy.
Isn't it another lefty for?
It's Braxton Garrett.
Yeah, so I thought. Isn't it Garrett?
Braxton Garrett, yeah. Who I think has a little bit more poise. But as he had poise in this situation, we know that we can compete in this situation and fare well. Even in San Diego last year, on the road in Atlanta, in Houston in Game 1. I mean, even most of Game 6, we played really well in Houston. So, we know that we can. Do they know that they can? Totally different atmosphere they're going to be in. It's it's not June, it's not July, it's not August. So
this is where it counts, and this is where we're going to see who the men are and who the guys go in the closet and hide, because this is where teams fight to become the World Series champions. And the Phillies, look, I think the Phillies are going to win the series, but the Phillies have to watch out for Bell and Soto and Arise and Chisholm. Those guys kill the Phillies.
Soler, really, really gives it to us, and like you said, Bell. And you gotta hope at Arise. I mean, obviously he's not a terror on the base pass in terms of speed. I don't know that he could beat Alec Bohm in a foot race, but you put him on and you get the Thunder in the lineup coming up. Even a free swinger like Jazz Chisholm could be difficult for right-handers, especially Nola. He hangs a curveball or doesn't get his change up in the right spot.
We know where that ball's going.
Exactly. So I mean,
the second deck
can pop it. Not like us, but they still have guys that can pop it that have hurt us in the past. So, you got to control the Arises and the Bells, the Solers, because they have the potential. They're not afraid of this Phillies team. The only difference is, can they compete in this atmosphere?
Look,
for 3 games.
I don't know. The Braves. I think the Braves don't want to face the Phillies, right?
I don't know that any team particularly does, but especially the Braves. I'm pretty sure they're confident against everyone, including the Dodgers. I don't think they fear the Dodgers at all. I think they would hammer their pitching. And although the Dodgers have a really good, potent lineup of their own, it doesn't run as deep as the Braves, and their pitching is definitely slightly better. Again, the Brewers are that one question mark team where, they don't have a great offense, but they're a resilient, annoying team. Which, when you have good pitching and good defense like they have, that raises some question marks. It makes it a little bit scary, but we'll see when we get there. We'll cross that bridge at that point. So.
Who would you rather face, the Diamondbacks or the Marlins?
Offensively, I'd rather face the Diamondbacks. I'd much rather go through their lineup. Pitching-wise, again, do I know that Zach Gallen's going to come in here and be dominant in this atmosphere? No. But, on paper, their pitching is certainly better, with Alcantara not being in there. So, I would have to say, I'd have to say I wouldn't ask for either, but I'm certainly not opposed to playing either. I think they're pretty much even teams. Obviously, Miami's a little bit more used to playing us. However, neither have played in this atmosphere, and that's, one of the biggest advantages that we have over just about any team. I think here and maybe Houston, when they have that dome closed or that roof closed and Minute Maid, it makes it a huge advantage. So, we'll see, but that's the ace in the hole. And obviously, if our lineup takes a good approach, I don't know who's as clutch as Bryce Harper. So. Trey Turner, also a big-time player when the lights are shining brightest. I think Alec Bohm is. Bryson Stott looks like he got out of his little mini funk at the end of the year. We know we're going to get from him. He's the best fielding second baseman in the National League.
We need Alec Bohm to start hitting again. We need Bohm to start hitting again.
Yeah, he hit that opposite field homer. Hopefully that helps him. Couple ribbies over the last series.
Do you think in the playoffs, do you think they keep Nick still in the 6-7 hole?
I would. It's the most comfortable he's looked all season. again, I don't know how much you can make of orders at this point, especially with the DH intact. But, our lineup gets precipitously weaker as it goes to the bottom. I mean, nothing against, Rojas, but he's not that big of a threat. He is when he gets on the bags, but, you're not scared to death of him. So I think he gives a little bit more balance to the lineup. I think optimally in the 7 hole would be even better for him. And but a guy like Brandon Marsh could really be a big game changer because he's going to be towards the bottom of the lineup.
Do you think he's going to play tomorrow against the lefty?
I think he should. I really think he should. One, he gives us. I mean, say you play. What are you going to do? Play Jake Cave or Pache over him? I think him as a left-hander in the lineup, and that's to say if they, that he even lasts. What if he lasts 4 innings, and Marsh only gets to face him once or twice, and he's not a guaranteed out against lefties. I know he struggled with them, especially towards the end of the season, but, it's tough because he's not playing against them. So the only time he's really seeing them is out of the bullpen. You're facing left-handed specialists at that point. I personally would rather have him in there. Because what's the alternative? Kyle Schwarber plays in left? No. I'm sorry, but no. You just can't have that. I mean, you have 2 defensive stiffs in Castellanos and Schwarber. I know Castellanos hasn't made an error, and he's got a decent arm, and he's good at coming in on balls, but he's terrible going back, and he doesn't cut anything off, side to side. So his range is really limited. Obviously Rojas plays a Gold Glove caliber center field. But Marsh is a natural in left. He looks great in left. He can get to so many different balls. I mean, a ball hit to someone's right out in left field, a lot of times it's going to be a double with good speed. The Schwarber's out there, and that kills you. Marsh has a much better arm, obviously better speed and range. And who's to say he can't be productive against a left-handed pitcher? I think that was a big blunder towards the end of the year, not playing ever against left-handed starters. I think he needs that confidence. I think he's a really good ball player. I think he just needs to be in the lineup. I know he's big on, dance with who got you here. Well, Brandon Marsh is a big part of what got us here. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but do I think he'll be in the lineup? I really don't know. I don't know if that was just a regular season thing, but...
Do you think Jake Cave makes the playoff roster?
He should not. I know that. You don't have to worry about depth as much when it comes to the bullpen. Obviously, they kept Jake Cave around because he could play first and he could play left, which Cody Clemens couldn't do. He gave you really nothing else, however. But I think that was really the only reason he was on this roster throughout the season is because he could play both the outfield and first, which has been an issue. But, you're not going to have Bryce Harper not play first. He's not going to be the DH, so he's going to be playing first every game. And you're going to have Marsh in left field or Pache maybe as a defensive replacement. So I don't think there's a need for him.
Now here's a question. What do you think about this bullpen? Do you trust this bullpen going in? We know what you think about Kimbrel. Do you trust Soto? Do you trust any of these other guys coming in? Soto, now what I
do not trust Soto. I don't think he's exceptionally mentally tough. He can lose control of his fastball in an instant. He has an arm that was blessed by God. And he has great stuff, but his fastball at times can really flatten out, and his location, you don't even know where it's going with the GPS. So,
do I trust Soto? No. But I can tell you who I do trust. I do trust Alvarado.
I trust Alvarado. I have actually pretty good trust in him. I think he's earned our trust, and Jeff Hoffman.
The new kid I trust.
Yeah. Well, with that kind of stuff that he has, I mean, it's hard not to trust him. He'll make you a believer overnight. So I mean, there's three studs right there. Matt Strom, as long as you don't extend him too long, because he doesn't have anything special. You know, that fastball doesn't move. It's an average fastball, 94, 95. It's all about placement with him. But you don't want hitters to see too much of him. So he's good for an inning or less. I know Rob Thompson loves to fall in love with him and, you know, make him that middle relief or end of relief, you know, 2-inning guy. It's just not smart. It's not smart business. Just like Alvarado, he's effective in an inning without runners on. You bring him in any other situation, it's just not ideal for him. Like, you got to know what your players are good at and comfortable at. You know, it's like asking Rojas to bunt all season long. The guy couldn't get a bunt down. It's like, you know, you can't put players in positions in the playoffs anyway that they're not comfortable with and they can't perform in. So, you know, I think you got to stay limited with Strom. You have the three guys that you can trust. You just got to hope you get the best out of Sir Anthony and Lorenzen. And I know it's asking a lot, but you got to just pray that Soto can put together a 4-week stretch.
The thing about Soto is, right? The thing about Soto is that when Soto's in, you can, if he is on, he's throwing strikes and no one can hit him.
He's untouchable.
Yeah. If he's off, he's walking people and you don't know where it's going.
Yep. And they're going to time that 100-mile-an-hour fastball because it's probably going to be flat and out over the plate.
If he's off, he's throwing balls, and then he can't control anything. And then they know he's coming back with a fastball, and then boom, it's out of the yard.
Absolutely.
That's why you can't get behind, because they know you're going to come back with a fastball. Unless it's like the Bryce Harper, then they may not want to throw a cookie down the middle to like the Bryce Harpers, to the Acuñas.
And you know the Phillies' kryptonite all year has been what?
Putting guys on base with walks.
You got it.
Especially their bullpen. Their starters do it, but, you know, it's mostly when the guys come out of the pen.
Yeah, the only guy, I mean, obviously Taiwan Walker's been a disaster.
He does it, but Aaron, Nola really doesn't do it. I mean,
Ranger uncharacteristically has been very wild and put way too many on with walks. So hopefully something he irons out come playoff time, but you know, he just had an unfortunate season, got a late start, didn't get any spring training, got hurt again, went back on the DL. You know, it's been tough for him, and he just hasn't been able to find that groove other than maybe the month of June.
Now, if there's a game 3, who you putting in? Who do you trust if you're the manager? But the thing is, before you say anything, Wheeler's already gone, Nola's already gone. So you got 3 guys to pick from. You got Sanchez, Suarez,
Ranger,
or Walker.
I know that Ranger can come through in a big game.
Or Walker.
Ranger. No, it doesn't matter who it is. I'll take Ranger, and I'll take that. You know, he'll have his location a little bit better, and you know, focus in a little bit more. You know, I think the last game he pitched against the Pirates, I think that might have been an alcohol-induced game. He was partying and ripping it up a little bit late the night before when they clinched. So, you know, I think that had a little bit to do with it. He looked like he had no interest in being out there. So I'm going to guess that, you know, with the rest and preparation, he's going to be a little bit better. And I think he'll be ready to rock.
How about this? Let's just
6+ innings.
Let's just hope we don't need him to pitch in game 3.
No, we might. Let's hope he opens up the divisional series.
When will that take place, by the way?
Typically, if it goes to game 3, I would think it would be the day after or 2 days after. If it ends game 2, after game 2, I think they would have 2 days of rest.
So we're looking to a Saturday start, right? Whoever wins this series. I'm not trying to get ahead of the series though.
Yeah. And I hope they aren't. We can. They can't.
No, I don't want to either. Marlins give us trouble. We should have swept the Marlins last time, and our pig pen came in and blew us 2 games.
And that 4-game series, we should have swept them too. Where we blew 3 saves in that game, thanks to
Kimbrel won.
Trey Turner.
Oh yeah.
Trey Turner, Dylan Covey. I mean, you couldn't expect much out of him. But
it wasn't really his fault. He should have won that game.
No. Yeah, that was on Trey. Trey and Kimbrel. And
look, I like Trey, but he's the worst shortstop probably defensively in the game.
I've never seen a worse shortstop in my life, actually.
Trey.
He's got amazing range. He's a lot like Jose Reyes without the cannon for an arm. Can make unbelievable plays. Great hand-eye coordination for the most part. Great reflexes. Has good range, but just screws up the routine ball way too much, and his footwork's terrible. The guy's a second baseman. We've talked about that. I think he would actually excel at second base. I don't know about win a Gold Glove. I'm not saying he would be a Chase Utley, a Bryson Stott, or Roberto Alomar type, but he would fare a lot better at second. Wouldn't have to worry about the longer throw. And we already know Bryson Stott. I mean, you could make him a peanut vendor, and he's going to be good at that.
Well, we covered the Phillies. We covered what they have to do to beat the Marlins.
Now we're going to move on to your Denver Broncos.
What's wrong with the Denver Broncos? They won yesterday.
I mean, listen, they haven't lost in a week, so,
The Denver
streak of 1.
The Denver Broncos won yesterday. Their defense still looks terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. And I'm hoping beyond hope that somehow they entertain a trade for Patrick Surtain to my Eagles.
You think the Eagles are? Do you think Patrick Surtain's going to get traded?
I don't know. I mean, they'd have to be insane to do it, but man, that looks like the Broncos might need to rebuild again.
Well, if you want to rebuild, trading everyone you just drafted, that's good. Ain't smart.
No, but he will be coming up on a veteran's contract soon, so
they're gonna
might be one of the casualties.
Broncos
and
can
Jerry Jeudy.
His contract's up this year, I think, Judy. Broncos will probably franchise tag Surtain after next year.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. That was just wishful thinking. I know that's not going to happen. The Eagles have
Look, let me tell you something. Broncos ain't actually – they're a bad team, but I don't get it. They scored 100 points in 4 games. That's not bad.
No, but they've also given up 150 points in 4 games.
That's the problem.
Yeah. The complete opposite of last year. Had they had this offense last year, they probably finished just behind the Chiefs in the AFC West.
I mean, if their defense, I don't know. The something's wrong with this Vance Joseph fella.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Oh, you got to have the hairy eye on him.
Yeah, well, I'll tell
Justin Fields did nothing all year, and all of a sudden he plays the Broncos. He looks like MVP candidate.
I know. Well, whatever is infecting Vance Joseph and their defense is also infecting Sean Desai and the Eagles' conservative secondary, where they just, they love playing off, getting beat across their face, and I just want to say it right now, Darius Slay is the most overrated player in the NFL.
Would you rather have the Broncos corner or Slay?
Would I rather have Patrick Surtain?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any day of the week, twice on Sundays, 3 times on Sundays. 1,000,000%. But realistically, as far as the Eagles are concerned, and the fixes that they can make in the secondary, is Bradbury needs to go back to the outside because he's technically sound on the outside corner. and he's pretty much shutting down whoever he has, especially their second receiver. Does pretty well against the number one receiver. When they comes over to his side. He needs to go back to the outside, get out of the slot. He's not a slot corner. He doesn't have those abilities. It's a tough ask for an outside corner to do that. They need an upgrade. They need to go find a slot corner ASAP. It needs to happen. That, or you need to find a really good disciplined ball hawking safety to go along with Reed Blankenship, because they're just not getting it right now. Job and company just aren't getting it done. Their linebacker play has been surprisingly good. Fletcher Cox has been great, except for yesterday. It looked like he could have scraped them up off the ground. He did not look like he was in shape to play that game yesterday. So those things have to change for the Eagles. One or two fixes, plus play calling has just been atrocious.
Do you like Nick Sirianni?
I do. However, I mean, it must be part of his philosophy to have a conservative defense. They don't bring much in the way of disguises or looks in the secondary and linebacking core. They don't rely on the blitz much, which, typically is a good thing. You think about certain defenses like the 07 Giants or their defensive line, Ravens of yesteryear. They relied on their front, and that's great. But, sometimes you're going to need situations where you're going to need to bring that linebacker or disguise zone coverages and zone blitzes, and they just don't do it. They don't do it much. I saw when they went to cover one yesterday and they had Reed Blankenship back. They ran some man blitzes, did a little bit of disguising, and they got right to Sam Howell, and he wasn't good in the face of pressure. Most of the game, however, and his completion percentage shows 70%, that we didn't do that much. And the middle of the field is just wide open constantly. So, when we run zone defense or, we're playing inside technique and allow on the outside, or outside technique and allow on the inside, it just seems like there's way too many holes, especially against quick, shifty receivers. And the schedule's only going to get tougher. So, we're going to be facing guys like Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And then, obviously, Travis Kelce over the middle, who kills everybody, especially us. So, definitely some fixes there. I don't know what you're going to do about your Broncos. There's a lot of fixes that need to be made there.
Dude, I can tell you one thing though. Russell's looked I think looked really good.
I didn't get to see him because I was at the Eagles game, getting sunburned and being frustrated at the play calling. But
who'd you go with yesterday?
A guy I have season tickets with. I split season tickets with. So
how many games did you go to?
Well, this was my first this year. I was supposed to go to the Vikings game, but it was my mom's birthday, so I politely declined and gave my ticket away. And I'll be going to the Miami game. I think the Dallas game. And obviously a few more, but yeah, it's.
You go by yourself or you go with him?
No, I go with him or whomever else wants to go. I actually got a buddy who's a Dolphins fan. He's my oldest friend. Grew up a Dolphins fan, so we're gonna all go to the game for him. He's not wearing Dolphins colors, by the way. he's going incognito or neutral.
Why? Because the Eagles fans will throw stuff at him.
You don't want to tempt fate, my friend.
You don't want to tempt the Eagles fans?
You don't want to do it.
When the Broncos come here, I think in a year, I'm not wearing Broncos jerseys.
Be smart. Wear a Philly shirt. Be neutral.
No, because if someone ruins my Surtain jersey, I'm going to flip out on the guy who does it.
Or you could just get an Eagles Patrick Surtain jersey. And hopefully that happens.
No, that ain't going to happen. He's going to sign here for long term.
Well, he'd be a fool.
What?
He should come here.
Broncos are going to win, are going to make the playoffs. Maybe not this year, but eventually.
Yeah, but we're going to make the Super Bowl.
What?
I said, yeah, but we're going to make the Super Bowl.
You sure about that?
I think the window's still open for a while.
But I think you can, but you also have to look out for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, but they also have to look out for coming in here.
Oh, are they playing you in there? Are you going when you play them? Are you going there or are they coming there?
They're coming here. Hopefully those defensive inadequacies are addressed by that point.
So yeah, I think Broncos beat the Jets on Sunday.
Well, they lost a heartbreaker, and they made Patrick Mahomes look pretty bad. So, I can imagine what they're gonna do to Russ. However, I just don't know. Well, Zach Wilson might be able to find some TDs against your vaunted Broncos defense.
We're going to be fixed.
What do you think about that?
What?
What do you think about Zach Wilson carving up that Broncos defense?
What if he throws for like 500 yards? What would you say?
I'd be like, I thought he was going to throw for 600.
What?
I'll say I thought he was going to throw for 600 against them.
And what if Russell Wilson throws for like 700?
I don't know who he's doing that on. It's sure not going to be Sauce Gardner.
Who's Sauce Gardner going to cover?
Oh, Jerry Judy's their one.
You think Judy's better than Sutton? He's not better than Sutton this.
Should he be? Yes. Is he playing that way? No. Cortland Sutton's actually a really good route runner, reliable receiver. I'm sure he'll be locking up both of them.
Look, I like Judy, I do, but this year Sutton's actually having a pretty good year, and Judy.
Yeah, he's a good receiver.
And Judy's not doing shit right now. But I do think the Broncos are going to try to offer him a contract in the offseason.
Yeah.
Well, it depends how the Broncos finish, probably. I mean, we'll see. If they win this week, 2-3, and then we'll see what they do going on. Next week, they got after this week, they get the Chiefs, so we'll see.
Yep.
It all depends if that defense can get fixed. The Broncos defense last year, teams would drive on them, but they were very good at keeping teams out of the end zone. Now, they drive and score touchdowns every time. Like, if Broncos can get back to what they did last year, if teams drive on you, that's okay. But if you can just keep them the field goals and not touchdowns every time, then you still have a chance to go ahead.
Yeah, their red zone defense, a lot to be desired. I would imagine Vance Joseph has a lot to do with that.
Vance Joseph was never a good defense coordinator.
He was at one point, but that didn't last long. You gotta change with the times. You gotta adjust. So
We'll see.
Clearly, he hasn't done that.
Before I end this podcast, I'm gonna go over a couple more games and who do you think wins the series? Who do you think wins the series? Rays, Rangers. I'm taking Rays in 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how the Rangers overcome their poor pitching.
And Rays have the pitching, and
they're also playing in that beautiful Tropicana Dome.
With all the front runners that are finally going to show up.
That abandoned UFO that landed in St. Pete.
All right, so you think Rays win? How many games?
I'm going to go with 2.
Next I'm going to go with Brewers, Diamondbacks. I think Brewers win this in 2. I think they're pitching strong, and I think they'll score enough runs to win it. What do you think?
Brewers in 3.
All right. Next, we got Blue Jays, Twins. I don't think the Twins streak ends. I really like the Twins hitting, and I like their pitching too. And the end of their bullpen, I really like. I think they win this in 3.
I do too, and I think Blue Jays' offensive struggles. I know they warmed up a little bit towards the end of the stretch, but their pitching and their offense are very inconsistent. Well, who does that sound like?
The Phillies. So you think the Blue Jays win?
No, I think the Twins win.
You think the Twins streak ends?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next we go with the Phillies. I think Phillies win in 2.
Phillies win. I'm having a hard time with saying 2.
2 or 3.
When I just think it's going to be 3. I really do. I don't want it to be 3. I want it to be 2. But something's telling me that they're going to win in 3.
All right. Matt Duck, thanks for joining me on this podcast today. And we'll see how our Phillies do tomorrow. And we'll keep all the updates on the baseball scores. And especially with your Eagles and my Broncos, as the Eagles head to LA to play the Rams this week, right? And the Broncos face the Jets at home.
Yeah, we've got to take advantage of Matt Stafford's hip pointer and not give him too much time. He's kind of become a statue back there. He's not as old the Lions and Georgia Bulldogs scrambling days. So
is Cooper Kupp coming back this week?
What's that?
Is Kupp back this week?
There's a chance of it. So hopefully we can get to him before, I don't imagine he'd be as crisp or as sharp. So
who, Kupp?
Yeah.
Hey, if Kupp does come back, I guarantee he probably is on like a snap count, probably.
Yeah, you got to see with that. Towards ACL, right?
Yeah, last year, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
All right, buddy.
It should be a home crowd for the Eagles.